Welcome, my friends, to the Joel Comm Show. Glad that you're here today. And for those of you that are watching live, please come on in because we've got a treat for you. And I'm going to ask you to go ahead and share with the general public, the people at large, that we're live, because I want to give a warm welcome to a guest today. And we're going to jump right in rather than tell you all the other exciting things that are happening in my life. I want to just jump right in and to do this introduction because I've got a super cool guy here with me. Those of you listening audio won't be able to see this, but I'm putting on my sunglasses because in order to match the level of coolness that my guest has, I've got to wear the sunglasses to even hope to get anywhere near his level of coolness. His name is Michael O'Neill, and like many of us who are entrepreneurs and have been through the world of attempting to find a job and to work for a living so that we can get a paycheck, my friend Michael has discovered that he is unemployable. Yep, unhireable, just like myself. And after his personal journey of finding himself, well, he found himself in San Diego. He launched a podcast in 2013 called the Solopreneur Hour. And basically, the podcast focuses on providing job security for people like us who are unemployable. So with that said, Mr. Michael O'Neill, would you please come on in here and grab you a seat and welcome to the Joel Comm Show. What's happening?
Hi, Joel.
What's going on there?
Well, you had your glasses on, so I thought I'd put my helmet on and my glasses.
Yes, because we might make impact, and you want to be ready because we don't want anybody getting hurt.
That's right. Hi.
Right.
And I have another helmet that I can put on that's even cooler.
Oh, yeah, but it's not a Broncos helmet.
That's right.
So,
it's even cooler, like I said.
Wait. If I just go back to the Super Bowl, who won that thing?
Well, let's just talk about one fumble that shouldn't happen. But go on. Hey, how do I I'm trying to figure out how to get my fancy microphone to work on Blab. Do you know how to do that? I think,
well, it's not on right now.
I don't believe it is. I'm just using
a little tutorial for anybody who wants to come on Blab. And by the way, those of you in the room, please tweet. Tell the little bird over there by clicking and letting people know that we are live right now. Up in your Chrome browser, right at the end of the URL, you'll see the little camera, Dilly.
Oh, yeah, I sure do.
Click that and give permissions to the mic. And then once you do that, you'll need to refresh the browser and come back in again for it. It doesn't just switch over.
Okay.
So refresh yourself, be refreshing.
Done.
And then come on back in and we'll do this thing upright, yo. And welcome those of you joining us, Brock, Veronica, and Eric, and the rest of you here in the room. We're glad that you're here. All right, talk to us.
Is that any better? Is it the same? Did I change anything?
Well, the volume is lower on it.
Okay. Let's
talk. Tap it.
Check.
Yeah, it's going through there.
Is that it? Cool.
Yeah.
All right, but it's lower.
It's just, yeah, your volume's lower.
Okay. All right.
So I'll just turn you up here. Can you guys hear him okay?
Let's see.
Those of you in the rooms of the Blabs, no, very quiet. Maybe on your a mixer there, you can pump up the volume.
I got all kinds of tricks.
Yeah.
1, 2,
oh, there
1,
you
2,
go.
1,
now
2.
we're talking.
1, 2, 1,
Perfect.
2.
You sound good. And by the way, you'll
1, 2.
notice, what am I on here?
You're on a good.
I got my PR40, and it makes
right.
my voice to sound all the better.
It does. So my next question is, why can't I send the audio now speaker through my gear? It doesn't. It's just telling me microphone. Interesting.
Yeah.
We're about
and
speakers.
now, welcome to technical support with Joel and
Hi.
Michael.
Hi, everybody.
That's actually not why we're here today, but
it's not. And I'm going to stop it in 3 seconds. But okay, never mind.
Can you hear okay?
I can hear fine. It's just coming out of my speakers, then going into the mic.
No, we're not.
So
We're
if you
not
guys
getting
get
the echo.
weirdness,
It's good.
then perfect.
Yeah, and that's of course the beauty of the mic, like the Heil PR40 that we have, is I'm coming out of my speakers as well, but it doesn't pick up any of that.
Perfect.
So,
well, then I can take my
remove.
off.
Although sometimes
Even
I like to use the earbud as a monitor.
That's what I'm doing.
To hear what I sound like, because I like the sound of my own voice.
I think you sound really sexy.
Okay, well that's also not why we're here, but it's a bonus. Anyway, so you podcast. Okay,
I do.
So we talked about that.
3
Let's
times
move
a week.
on. No, let's.
All right, next.
When did you discover that you were unemployable? I mean, we see your shirts behind you, proudly unemployable, way unemployable, so very unemployable.
And I think we're Facebook friends.
I think we're Facebook friends. Great shirt.
Yeah, thank you. Early in the no is the answer to someone who just asked about my cough. Never mind. In the aughts, I read many of the entrepreneurial books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant. I didn't really pay a lot of attention to them. However, I just sort of read them and thought, oh, that's what some people do. And at some point, I was hired. I was a freelancer, web and branding guy, and I was hired by a startup, a new sort of Fortune 500 startup company, and in Boulder, Colorado, actually, called WebRoot Software. And I was hired as their creative director. And I realized about 2 months in, what on earth am I doing here? Like, nothing about this, even though it was a great hefty paycheck, nothing about this do I enjoy. And I totally had the middle manager that didn't know nearly as much as I did making decisions for the company. And I was like, this is awful. So after about a year, we mutually parted ways, and I've never looked back. That was 2005. So it's been 11 years.
You got fired?
I got a big fatty severance pay for a few months.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like, yeah, let's I think we're probably good. And I'm like, yeah, I think we're probably good.
Now. You should probably.
Yeah. It was funny though, is it was the day before my first mortgage payment on my first house was due.
Of course it was.
It was that walk. So I was like, oh, great. So that was kind of the beginning of some chaos for me for a few years. And so I sorted that out. That sounded like a very Canadian out.
You sorted that out there.
Sorted that out. And in 2009, that's sort of where this new version of my journey sort of re-began. And a part of the theme of, I think, what we should talk about today, if you want, of course, it's your show, is the steps from 2009 until today, and how there's a common thread between all of them.
I want to talk about what you want to talk about. So if that's what you want to talk, I thought we were going to talk about cats and bacon, but I'm totally good with actually bringing value. Yeah, and
did that mute me right there?
It did, and there's some little bandwidthy things going on right here. Your picture is a little muddled. Are you guys seeing? How's the video quality for y'alls? It's Y''ALLS. Y'alls. A bit pixely. Okay. We'll survive. We'll live.
I'm hardwired in, but I feel like my internet provider's having some issues at the moment. So I apologize.
Okay. You know what? It's just how we roll in the technology age.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that. Let's really briefly reference your podcast.
Okay.
And how I am the Alec Baldwin of the Solopreneur Hour. There it is. Solopreneur Hour, now going on your third year.
Yeah. There it is. Catch Solopreneur Hour, everybody. Solohour.com.
Yeah.
Very
casual show.
It'll be 3 years in August. August 23rd is my anniversary, and I'm at I think 380 episodes today. Or
wow.
Tomorrow's 381. Yeah. And what a cool what a cool journey, and what a cool. It gives you really the ability to access hopefully some people that you are really inspired by, and meaning me. Like it's selfishly that I get to have these conversations with really cool people like yourself, and some of my favorite authors, some of my favorite business people, but even more, actors and comedians and athletes and things like that are high on my list of people to talk to, because anybody that has I put entertainment first for my show. So it's not like I don't promise like we're going to learn 10 tips for blah, blah, blah. But I want to make sure that in the hour that someone tunes in, that they are entertained for that entire hour. Right.
Right.
And they learn a bit about, hopefully, behind the scenes of some of these people that, they already know their story. How many times has, like, Pat Flynn, for instance, told the story of him being an architect and getting fired and whatever, or you could click on his about page and see the same exact story.
Right.
Or you could listen to my show and find out that he's a great breakdancer, wants to be DJ, has a fashion bug, and drives an old Honda CRV. Those kinds of things.
That's the important stuff, actually, because it's the part that makes us human.
That's right. We want to find out that these people that, we look up to and we're inspired by were literally in the exact same position that we were maybe 3 years ago. And they made a certain set of decisions that got them to where they are today. And that's really what my show's about is like, they say successful people put their pants on the same way we all do. I want to watch them put their pants on.
I actually aspire to put mine on both legs at the same time.
Like a jump pull?
Yeah, like I jump in and it...
Yeah. Like that guy on YouTube. The parkour guy does that.
Yeah, parkour guy. He's crazy. He's not human. He's
crazy.
That's nutty, crazy. These guys parkouring and like climbing, scaling buildings and being up on top of these skyscrapers and doing crazy stuff like that. So cool. Well, yeah, I hope you brought your stupid human trick with you today.
I did.
That's your stupid human trick, clicking the ka-ching button? Am
I supposed to have a stupid human trick?
I got one too. Actually,
I can play drums.
Yeah, you can play drums, but
I could flip my computer around right here and do it.
You could do what?
I can flip my computer around and play some drums.
Yeah, okay, and we might do that. But what I really am looking for is that thing that you do that nobody would pay you for, that we consider a talent just because we can do it. Like some people can dislocate their shoulder, right? And put it, like, what's your stupid human trick?
You want the actual stupid human trick? I'll give you my stupid human trick.
Okay.
Since I was a little kid, I've been double jointed. So much so that I have to take my watch off to even demonstrate this.
Okay.
But check this out. Ready?
Guys, get ready to hey, but before you do it, guys, there's a new feature that you'll see here on Blab that says share last 30 seconds. So when he's done doing what he's doing, that's the perfect time to tweet, because that'll be an entertaining tweet to go out. So
ready?
Here we go. Do it.
This is it. You guys should do this with me. Here's my hand.
Uh-oh, I'm scared. No, I can't look. Oh, my eyes.
I can do it really with almost all my fingers.
Okay, that is a great stupid human.
Yeah. No problem. Easy. So feel free to share.
Yeah. Don't do it again. That's.
I can't. If you guys want to try it with me, it's really, I used to be able to do both hands, but I can't really do my left hand anymore or my right hand without stretching it.
I feel like you would feel at home on the boneless chicken ranch.
Mm-hmm. Like all the swirly chickens.
Yeah. Remember the Far Side cartoon?
For sure. Yeah. I can do the nose thing, like, my nostrils, but I can't raise one eyebrow. And I know you can, like a champ. Yeah. That's so impressive. Dude.
I have another trick though, that as a musician, you'll really appreciate.
Ooh.
I have a finely tuned instrument on my person, an actual instrument. Would you like to guess what I can play?
Can you play Mary Had a Little Lamb with farts under your arms?
No.
Like,
no, I cannot.
No. Okay. I don't know, but that would be impressive.
I can play my cheeks.
Oh. Can you make the water drop sound?
I could do it without thumping it though.
I have to do the flick. I don't know how to. You're a very professional
listen.
at it. Yeah,
Okay,
impressive.
but I can actually play them. So for all of you in Blabland, and those of you listening in the replay who have stuck with us this far,
I can't even imagine there's 7 people left, but go on.
here we go. This is now going to happen, and I'm going to do the William Tell overture for you on my cheeks. I got to tune up. All right, here we go. Wait. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Wow, that was actually pretty impressive.
Thank you. The crowd goes wild. I do take requests too. And as a musician, you understand that the position of your mouth, like the opening, right, has everything to do. The shape of the mouth has everything to do with the note, and you have to be able to hear the tone. Can I
drop a that's what she said now, and then we can move on?
You know what?
Can I drop a that's what she said, and then we can move on?
But I'm pumped. Go ahead, say it.
Thank you.
That's what she said. All right.
Okay.
Rim shot.
Let's move on.
Yeah, moving on. So let's go to those of you just joining us. This is Michael O'Neill of the Solopreneur Hour, proudly unemployable and will be for the duration of his life. Because can you imagine, like, even in the driest times, the worst of times, can you imagine going and getting a job now?
I was actually thinking about this a couple months ago. What's the number? What number would have to be given to me for me to take a regular 9-to-5 job, like with a commute and the whole thing now? Mm-hmm. And it is into the 7 figures for sure. Yeah, well, and it would have to be temporary.
The number for me is not a number. There's no food, there's no shelter, there's no clothing. That would be the number that it would take to get me to go get a job.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so let's talk about this journey, and we'll open up the seats here in just a little bit. So if you guys have questions for Michael O'Neill of the Solopreneur Hour, very successful podcaster and all-around great guy, then when I open the seat, we'll invite you in to do that. But take us on this journey.
I will. So in 2007, I lost both of my parents. So those of you that have heard this story, I apologize, but I'll make the Twitter version of this. But I lost both my parents. Pretty suddenly. My dad was not a huge surprise. My mom was a huge surprise. The really long story short is that them being sick in the U.S. healthcare, combined with the fact that I was a freelancer and having to go back and forth to Florida and deal with that whole world, it really disrupted everything. And I lost all of it. If you guys saw The Big Short, I totally got caught up in that as well. And so I lost my house, a couple cars, my 401k, the whole bit. And I had I had this goal in my life that I wanted to take my parents to Europe at some point. And then I didn't get the chance. So they were obviously gone. But I decided to get a little Italian Parmesan cheese shaker, which I can go get if you'd love to meet my parents. And I put their ashes in it. And I went to Europe for 4 months. Yesterday, 7 years ago, is when I left. So, or when I came back. Maybe it's when I came back. No, it's when I left. And so I had this unbelievable trip where I finally kind of got to heal and put everything behind me, including the want or the notion to ever work an hour for $1 again. I never wanted to do like client service work, which is what I've been doing, being a web guy and a branding guy for 18 years. And when I landed on my connecting flight from Brussels to DC back to Denver, where I lived until 4 years ago, I had $14. And it wasn't like, hey, go hit the ATM, but I had $14. I heard somebody the other day, by the way, and it made me laugh. That somebody was like, oh my God, I was struggling. I was down to my last $5,000 in my bank account. I'm like, really? Your last 5K? How did you manage? Let's try 14 and see how that feels. In my 30s, right? Like I'm in my late 30s, and it was like, okay, then what happens? You know, it was like the end of the movie The Princess Bride, where Inigo Montoya has gotten this 6-fingered man to avenge his father's death. And his buddy Wesley says, well, what are you going to do now? And he goes, I don't know. I've been in the revenge business my whole life. And that's sort of how I felt sitting on my brother's guest bed. Like, I don't know what I want to do, but I know what I don't want to do is ever work an hour for $1. And so I had a really interesting and repeatable journey from that point to this point. First being, I found a guy that I was inspired by. There was a dude that lived in Denver that was in the internet marketing world. I knew nothing about internet marketing. And I met him, and he had this, what to me looked like a fantastic life. Lived in a beautiful loft and had a, looked like he made good money and was doing all that stuff. He was making like $5,000 a day with his kind of maybe the edge of scammy weight loss tea that he was selling on the internet. However, there were lessons to be learned. And I said, how do I learn from you? So lesson 1, find someone that is doing something you want and ask them for help. What do I need to do to get to where you are? That was the first thing. He said, I will meet you in 2 weeks only if you read these books and go through this set.
And what were those books? 2
of the books were The E-Myth Revisited and Strengths Finder 2.0. And then there was a couple others that were like the Magic of Thinking Big. And then there was like an online test that was kind of similar to Strengths Finder, where at the end of it, you sort of got an assessment of who you were and what your strengths were. So dug right in. Absolutely. Let's do it. I had nothing to lose. I had no money. I was like, I'm open to every suggestion. So buried the books in 2 days, like bang. Called him up a couple days later. I'm like, I'm done. He's like, you're done with what? I said, done the books, done the tests. I'm ready to go. That's what, for someone like Joel, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but when someone comes to you and you give them some advice and they bang that advice out in like a couple of days and they're back for what's next, then you know they got some hustle, right? So I did that. But when I read The E-Myth Revisited in City Park in Denver, very close to where Joel lives. And I remember shutting the book and saying, that's really interesting. That reminds me of the very little I know about network marketing. Because the idea that you would sort of build a franchise around yourself, and the more you could duplicate yourself, the more successful you'd be in that business. So I thought, let me send an email to a buddy of mine, who's in a network marketing company. I knew nothing about that world, but I knew friends that had tried the products and they liked them. I said, that's enough for me. I said, what is this thing and how do I do it? And so again, I did the work. I said yes to this guy. I'll read the books, read the books. Then I took action. So I said yes, then I took action. Remember that. Yes, action. Yes, action. Then I went out and I connected with another guy that was doing something that I wanted to do. I said, hey, how do I do what you're doing? He said, well, we've got our little local, a big annual rah-rah event coming up next week. I'll pay for your ticket if you just got to get there and I'll take care of everything else. I said, okay. Didn't have any idea how I was going to get there or how I was going to afford it. However, I said yes first. Then I worked out the details. Mm-hmm. In 380 episodes of my show, if I could find one common thread of the most successful people that I've ever interviewed, it's that they say yes first, then they work out the details of how they're going to accomplish it.
You have no idea what you're doing. You just know that you have to do it.
You just know that I'm going on this hike and I'm going to get up to that mountain up top. I have no idea how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to get there.
Right.
Average people, and I don't mean to insult people by this, but people that don't intend on becoming extraordinary say maybe, and then they think of 10 ways why they can't do something. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I don't have the whatever. And for every person that says that, I will show you a successful person, a successful person that was in a worse financial or time management position than they were and made it work.
Yeah.
So don't want to hear it.
You want
somehow
to be with people who know what they're talking about, right? They gotta know their stuff.
Right. Hold on a second. I'm curious about this. Someone said Brendan Bouchard credit needed. What does that mean?
Maybe he needs.
I've actually never consumed an iota of Brendan Bouchard credit, or stuff. But
maybe Brendan needs a Visa or a MasterCard.
Maybe we have the same. Stuff. Who knows?
Right.
But anyway, so I 1 week later was in Anaheim, California, at their big annual rah-rah event, and I had no idea what it was or what it was about. But to fast forward through there, I ended up getting I really enjoyed it. And I was really good at social media from my previous career, being a web guy, that kind of thing. Within a few months, I'd built a pretty good business because I was really good at the psychology of sales online. I knew jab, 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 right hook before it was a thing, right? And so I had the company said, hey, would you mind, we've seen what you've been doing on social media. Would you mind sharing that with the rest of the field? And I said, no problem. So I designed this thing called the Social Media Roadshow. And I went to 17 different cities teaching their field, the people that were trying to build businesses, how to use social media to grow their business. And this was like all baby boomers. So this is 2010. So not exactly comfortable and, been pretty innovative actually at the time for what we were doing. So I got this reputation of being a big social media guy. And one of the main speakers and trainers in the company, this guy, David T.S. Wood, had a YouTube question for me. And I said, David, I've seen you speak in front of 10,000 people. We should grow your brand. Don't worry about your YouTube question, but we should grow your brand. And he said, well, how do we do that? I said, what about a podcast? He said, well, what's a podcast? I was like, well, it's like a radio show that you download. And he knew nothing. He was complete anti-technical guy, right?
We call them Luddites.
He totally died. And so I started a show called The Kick-Ass Life with David Wood in 2012, in February, I think. And he would speak into the mic, and I would literally do everything else. I went up, I set a studio up for him. He would upload the MP3 to a Dropbox. I did the intro and outro. I'm the voice on it. I did all the music for it. I did all the social media sharing, all the website. I did everything. And I wish I had a me right now, by the way. Like if I could hire me, by the way, I did it mostly for free for a revenue share promise. So for 18 months, I can't imagine having me for free for 18 months.
We need
a clone of myself.
Clone app.
Oh,
right.
My goodness.
Where's iClone? Uber for clones.
Exactly. So I did that. And then here's where the turning point was. I'd never done a podcast. I just said yes. Then I said, okay, how do I do a podcast? And I got a guy who's paying me money, like initially paid me money to set it up and do it. And I didn't know anything I was doing. So I went to Cliff Ravenscraft's site. He's the podcast answer man. Took his free 6-video course and said, all right, that's how you podcast. Never paid a dime for any podcast stuff. Although if you'd like to come to my Podmastery in LA on March 26th, feel free, please. And so we launched that show. It became super successful. Always top 10 in health or, self-help or whatever. Started growing this huge tribe of thousands of people, that were listening to the show. And this is pretty ironic, and we'll get to why it's ironic in a minute. But he was climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, David was, and we couldn't put a show out. We prided ourselves on being able to do a show like literally from anywhere in the world. We recorded shows he was in Bali and, whatever. And I'd make them happen, but he was gone. He was off the grid, totally off the grid for 2 weeks. I said, man, we need a show. It's Thursday. I'll jump on and do a 45-minute social media training for, and this is the first time I'd ever utter this word, solopreneurs. Because I didn't want it to be just for network marketers, but I discovered that the common thread between network marketing and like a real estate agent or an actor or a comedian was that they all, like when you hired their business, you were really getting them. And that's, to me, what a solopreneur is. So I did a show, social media, 45 minutes, and a couple things happened. Number one, I found it painfully easy and natural for me to do. I just was like, wow, I didn't know I knew how to do this. Too much Howard Stern my whole life, I guess. And then the second thing is I got great feedback. People are like, why aren't you doing this? Like, why isn't this a thing? So that's what planted the seed. And that was May of 2013 was that time, that little like, maybe I should do this.
And look at you now.
Take a look at me now.
There's people that they think they can podcast. They get in front of the microphone and they just start going on and on. I mean, basically they're blatherskites, and we need people who really know their stuff.
Well, but I've never been accused of brevity, to be fair.
No,
but
you have not.
But so then fast forward to common thread. Said yes, figured out how to make it work. Reached out to a guy that was super successful so I could be around that energy. I can't tell you how many lessons I've learned from David Wood and how I run my life. Like I had a girl on one of the swipey swipe dating apps today. She said, "How are you?" And I said, "Great. I actually am fantastic." She said, "What makes you so great?" I'm like, "Well, that's a choice. I'm great because I make my life great. Like I can choose to be this." And she's like, "I'm not sure if I should be, freaked out by that or inspired." I said, "Well, if you want to hang around with people that are sticks in the mud, you can, but I'm like pretty psyched."
How are you,
So,
crappy? I want to go out with
Yeah.
that person.
that guy's awesome. But one of the lessons was from David, who I think got from T. Harv Eker, was, life is 10% what happens to you, 90% how you respond to it, right? So
I've got a millionaire mind.
right. So I live in that. I live in that
to my head
universe where you can just decide if you want to be, happy or not. And sometimes, a bottle of wine or some whiskey makes you helpful in deciding. No, so did that show. And then I had the other pivotal moment was I was really inspired by Pat Flynn. You guys know Pat Flynn, smartpassiveincome.com. Very intentionally created a relationship with him. It's like, I live in San Diego. I want to get to know this guy. I like what he's doing in the world. I would like to be around him so I can, again, learn about, like, by osmosis, how to do some of these things and build a business and that kind of thing. So once again, found a guy, like, okay, then how do I do that? He said, well, I'm speaking at an event in New York called NMX. And I said, okay, I'll go to New York. And so I got David. I said, dude, we need to go to NMX for our podcast. And he said, all right. And he sent me to, again, didn't know how to do it. Said, yes, figure out how to make it happen. Dave's sending me. Great.
By the way, NMX stands for New Media Expo.
And was Blog World before that.
Was Blog World. Now it's all things content creation, but especially lending towards new media, which is audio and video.
Right. So I went there, and specifically because Pat Flynn said he would meet me for a coffee while I was in New York. And I said, all right. So we sat down for like a half hour after, before his presentation. It was like one of his first presentations ever, and got to know him a little bit. And that sort of began our friendship. Fast forward a couple of years, I'm now having lunch with him here in North Park, where I live in San Diego. And we talked for 2 hours, and he said, dude, I never get to do this. Every time I have to talk, it's always smart passive income, and it's like strategy, and it's all this stuff. We talked about our relationships and our lives and men's fashion and just the world in general. He's like, thank you so much for that. And I thought, what an interesting idea for a show. What if I had a show that spoke around the things that the people did, and they got to learn who the real person was? And, because I have some chops on the microphone, maybe I can Trojan horse some value on them without them having to feel like I've got to take a notebook out and step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. What if they would remember stories or incidents where this person made a decision that really impacted their life? And can we focus on those things? So my show launched in August 2013. And now we're just about to get to 8 million downloads, 380 episodes later. And I came and began to tell you the doors that have opened because of it. And I'll let you speak for a minute, and I'll tell you the most recent door that has something to do with that helmet I was wearing a little earlier.
I know of your door.
Today. So that's like, I feel like a good breaking point for that section.
Look at you producing my show. I love it. You're such a pro. Like, you know what I need before I even tell you what I need. So you definitely got some coughing. Do you need to take a drink of water there and soothe your...
It's been 2 years, dude. It's not.
It's just perpetual. Okay, so
I can't.
In a moment, I'm going to open up the seats for questions from people. But you do have some really exciting news because you just started a new podcast. And like, of all the people that you would think you would start a podcast with,
well, don't step on it.
I wasn't going to say his name, but I was going to say, who would think that you would start a podcast with a Super Bowl MVP? Go ahead.
That's correct.
Go ahead.
That's good. I hope I say that.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to set you up. You have to trust me. Trust your host.
Yeah, I do. Implicitly.
Except when you don't.
Implicitly. Except when I didn't. So since I was a young buck, I have been a Steelers fan my whole life. Since I was 4 years old or so. I'm looking up for something right now. Like 4 years old in Ohio. Nobody in my family, by the way, no football fans, no Steelers fans. There was nothing to do with any of it. So very odd. But here's me. Here's young Michael. Right? You got that? Did it work?
Yep. It's hard to see,
in?
but we got the general idea.
All right, little kid, my Steelers trash can with my Steelers jacket. For some reason, my grandma got me a Bengals robe that year. I'm not sure what she was thinking, but that definitely didn't get worn. And so I was a fan forever, right? Years ago, I latched on to, like, I had two favorite players in the league. One was Brett Favre, because he was just gritty and a gunslinger, and I just liked him. And then the other guy was this guy, Hines Ward, receiver for the Steelers, would knock guys on their butt down the field, which no receiver would ever do. He would go on to win two Super Bowl, 1 Super Bowl MVP, then go on to win Dancing with the Stars, and then become an Ironman triathlete. He was a mixed race guy that got picked on his whole life. He's a little bit undersized. I just loved his grit, and I loved that you literally could not keep him down. And I was so inspired by him that my thing, his number, 86, started like finding its way into my world. Like, I have a little race card I restored that wore the number 86. I have, if you look at my studio, I call it Studio 86 because I have a Hines Ward jersey hanging right here. And so in September of 2015, buddy John Lee Dumas calls me and he says, "Hey, dude, you ever hear Shaquille O'Neal's podcast?" And I said, "I've heard it. I've heard of it. I've never heard it." And he says, "Well, it's pop culture, Justin Bieber, things like that. I've been approached by another celebrity to launch a show." I said, "Cool. Who is it?" He goes, "Well, I was thinking we could do some kind of cool, like, revenue share model, that kind of thing." "Great. Who is it?" He goes, "And I think he might need, like a couple." I'm like, "Dude, who is it?" He said, "It is none other than number 86 himself, Hines Ward." I said, "No S. You're kidding me right now." Because he could have said, whatever, Tom Cruise, Charlize Theron. I'd be like, "All right, cool. We'll start a podcast with them. Who cares?" But
for those of you that don't know, that means no silly.
What?
No S. I wanted to clarify.
Yes, no S.
13
That's
audience.
correct. No silly. No silly goose. And fast forward to Monday, not this last Monday, the Monday before, which would be the 22nd of February, 2016. For those of you listening in the future, we launched the Hines Ward Show, which what do you do? How do you even do that? That's crazy.
Magic.
But yeah, so we launched the Hines Ward Show on that day, the 22nd, and it's crazy. We Guy Fieri and Charles Barkley and Snoop Dogg, and we've interviewed all these cool people because he has all this clout, he has all these connections to do that, and yeah, it's been pretty crazy. Here's the part you may or may not know that is absolutely bonkers. My first podcast ever for David Wood. I got the little Facebook, here's what you were doing a few years ago deal that happened with the link to that show, thekickasslife.com/86.
Wow.
What? That's crazy.
Mic drop.
Effing
like that.
Which would have been 80 fantastic 6.
Great story. I'm going to open up the seats here so we can take questions. Mike, while we're getting people in here, why don't you turn your computer for a moment and give us like 30 seconds on the drums?
Oh, all right. Yeah.
Let's see. He's going to, Mike is a great drummer, and he's going to go ahead and turn so you can see his kit over there. He's just going to jam out for a second. And while he is, this is a great opportunity. You want to talk to Michael about his show, The Solopreneur Hour, about being a solopreneur, about anything he talked about Hines Ward. Come grab a seat, because that's what Blab's all about. And you are invited. By the way, great opportunity to get yourself seen by others who are here as well. Hint, hint. All right, Mike, play something for us. Go ahead. We hear you. I think it will. Yeah, go for it. Wow. That was tight, my brother. Yeah. Let
me give you guys a hold on. Let's see if I can
turn your life around and turn your computer around.
Turn that beat
Do you
around.
that percussion?
Playing some drum blabbers. Let me give you a quick little hack before we get into the Q&A. And I can credit a huge amount of connecting and success to this one little hack that I'm about to give you. When I was super broke, living in Denver, I had a choice. First of all, I had no job. I had barely any money, right? I would do little freelance gigs now and again and make a couple of bucks. And I could have found a little, I had Wi-Fi at my house eventually, and I could have worked from there. However, the goal, if you listen to any of my story, listen to how I kept connecting with people that were above where I was in their businesses, right? In some respects, whether it was from personal development or actual like financial success, I wanted to be around these people. So I would connect with those people. Now, where are those people? My guess is they're not in your living room generally, nor will they knock on your door and say, hey, can I mentor you some way? That very rarely happens, whether you're in the social world or the dating world or whatever. So you have to get out of your world, out of your house. Now, go to your local favorite coffee shop. Great. You've got the artists around you doing your thing. Fine. Now you have a choice there. You can go to that coffee shop, or you can do what I did, which is to go to Cherry Creek in Denver, which is where the most successful people in Denver typically work and shop. And I would work from that Starbucks.
Great corner.
Because then it actually is a really great one. And I also work from the other place. I forget, it doesn't matter. But now I'm surrounded by these people.
Am I the only one that
and at the end of the day,
glitched out on? Is anybody else experiencing Mike frozen?
Oh.
Okay. He's back, though. I think you're back. Why don't you go ahead and refresh? Pop out and pop back in. Okay.
I'll finish the story there.
Yep. Which is really just here.
I just reload it. Is that all?
Yeah, I would just reload the page and come on back in again. And he's in the middle of a story, and we don't want to miss it. We don't want to miss any of it. Welcome back, Michael O'Neill.
Hello.
Okay, carry on. Yes.
So I would do that during the day. You go to the nicest little subdivision or neighborhood in your city, work from that Starbucks or work from that coffee shop, wherever, because you're going to be surrounded by those people. But then the real linchpin, the killer, 4:30, 5 o'clock, go to a fancy hotel bar or a really nice restaurant, like a nice steakhouse where all the wealthy people go. Plop your laptop on the table. Assume that they have to have Wi-Fi, and get your happy hour glass of wine for $5 or $7 or whatever it is for happy hour. And you sit there and have a glass of wine or two while happy hour is going on. You go there about 4:30. Before you know it, this place, you will be surrounded by the most successful people in your city. And here's what happens. Those people are going to see you on that bar doing your thing, hustling, trying to get your work done. Success recognizes hustle every single time. They're going to go, what do you doing here? What's happening? Why you got to, because it's chaos around you. You've got people like, why would someone have a laptop at a bar and you're just kind of doing your thing? I've been invited to golf course parties, country clubs, to dinner numerous times, once on a yacht, from people that I met while I was sitting either at Earl's, which is, right where that is in Cherry Creek, or I forget the name of that hotel bar. That's the other super cool one right up the road.
The Marriott's Second Home.
Second Home, exactly. So those two spots got me to, I would say, at least 7 like sit-down dinners or parties with some of the most successful people in Denver. And when that happens, doors open for you, and it's free or it's $15 for a couple of glasses of wine.
That is a great life hack.
It is.
I love that. And I might do that just to do that, just to see what happens. I love that.
This was years, Shannon, before my Proudly Unemployable shirt existed. I was just unemployable.
Those of you just joining, my guest here today on Joel Comm Show is Michael O'Neill of the very successful Solopreneur Hour and the undoubtedly immediately successful Heinz Ward Show. And so somebody asked, how many people does it take to produce that show? Who's involved with getting that done?
Which show? But
Heinz Ward.
It's me. Well, actually, the answer is the same. It's me for both.
Yeah, you're it. You're the chief cook and bottle washer.
That's it. Here's why. Surrounding me right now, I have an Allen and Heath XB10, very nice mixer. I have a Zoom H6 recording here. I've got a nice microphone. I've got a DBX286S microphone preprocessor under here, meaning that by the time the show gets recorded onto this little SD card, because I do not believe in software recording, it sounds great. Like the audio is already killer by the time it goes into my recording software. So it takes me literally about 2 minutes to just move the files around so the intro overlaps correctly. I get a, hey, this is Joel Comm. You're listening to the Solopreneur Hour. I get that bumper thing right. And then I hit export. And that's it. I do have one person in my show, the Solopreneur Hour, who does my show notes. So she has already listened to the episode before I do that. And so I have a blog post waiting for me that I can just like put the show right into. We don't have that yet on the Heinz Ward Show because we don't have income yet from the Heinz Ward Show. So, it's just me until, we're bootstrapping.
But you shall. So the question here is, who gets the guests for Heinz's show?
Heinz has 2 million social media following. He has 400 something on Twitter and 1.6 million on Facebook. He's been a celebrity. He's been all over the place. It's not hard for him. He's got his telephone is who gets most of the guests. Like, hey, send a message or a tweet. It's pretty easy when you've verified and you've got a few 100,000 followers to send a tweet to a celebrity and say, hey, do you want to be on my show? It's very different for them. It's a different universe. He's following 86 and he's being followed by 400,000 plus.
How many episodes of your show are you doing a week?
The Solopreneur Hour is Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many, let's just like try to give perspective to somebody who wants to do a podcast. How many hours a week do you spend in prep? How many hours do you spend recording? And how much time do you spend in post?
If I have a A-list guest, I'll put 20, 30 minutes into research and getting an Evernote set up and having it all in front of me, when we're talking.
What if it's a B-lister?
I just hit record.
Okay.
Be on down. I just hit record. Again,
just be quiet. We'll hit record.
Right. That can't be universal for two reasons. Number one, my show is very, very intentionally conversational. So not everyone who wants to start any kind of podcast can do that. And number two, I don't know how to say this without sounding like it puts a lot of pressure on me to be entertaining and be able to pull it off. And not everybody is there yet with that. So some would need more prep as a help, as a backdoor to like, oh, I don't know what to say to this human being now. I better have some stuff prepared, right? So I would say that you could do 10 to an hour. I mean, a full hour. Then my show's an hour. That's the bulk. And then my post is 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes tops. So a super efficient show would be no prep, recording for an hour, and publishing in 5. So 1 hour and 5 minutes.
And then do you create graphics to promote each one so that people have something to share?
I do for most. Well,
I don't think you made me one. I got nothing.
Some. I don't do them for all. And
I got nothing.
That's a bandwidth issue more than it is a want issue. And it's like, if you've ever heard of Chris Ducker, people having superhero syndrome, like right here, dude, I have all of that syndrome. I'm such a even with the Heinz Ward thing, he's got people that are like trying to help me. I'm like, no, I got this. So I realize that's an issue.
Let's bring J.S. Gilbert in here because I know he's always got something to say.
Let's get rid of that.
JSG.
Yeah, get ready. There we are. All right. What's up, buddy? Haven't seen you in a while.
Is he in Vegas?
Well, I've been kind of on and off sick for a long time, but I've been around on Blab the last a few days, enjoying it and enjoying the conversation here. And I don't. I guess I should identify myself as being a solopreneur. I started work at the age of 9, and I've probably been employed a lump sum total. Been an employee a lump sum total of maybe 5 years of my entire life. But I just think of it as I'm willing to do whatever it takes, and I guess I just don't identify so much with the term solopreneur. And it's interesting because I probably should. I think there are a lot of specific issues and problems that can happen for people who are solopreneurs. One of which is I see tons of people that get out there, and you talk about the passive income thing. I had laryngitis for a week and a half. It cost me $37,000.
Yeah, so Michael, for you don't know JS, but he does voiceover for games.
Oh,
well,
cool.
and for commercials and things, but I also work in advertising and digital agencies and different things. It's another thing. I think when you're a solopreneur, you tend to wear a lot of hats.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been trying to look at passive income, and I have a lot of, well, not a lot, but investments out there. I think, like a lot of people, I was freaked out in the last year and a half to lose money on blue chip stocks and things of that nature, and have lost some money in real estate and things of that. So it's kind of like a question of, for me, looking at sort of the next steps, and I'm in the process of sort of reinventing myself yet again.
So is there something that Michael can contribute? Is there a question that might?
So the kind of thing here is, how do you avoid getting into that trap where, first of all, you're looking at the limitations of income earning based on your having to have your fingers in the pot, meaning if you don't, you're going to lose income, or something potentially problematic can happen, that moving more into passive income kind of place.
Have you read the E-Myth Revisited yet?
The E-Myth Revisited?
Yeah.
That may be the only book I have not read.
That literally could answer your exact question. That particular book, and I'll go into it. I have a set of books called The Sexy Seven for all of you that are trying to further their solopreneur world. And these are 7 books that, if you read them in this order, will change your outlook on. Really, I mean, you opened up the same front door you've had, you'll have a completely different landscape. And I'll get back to your question.
Don't you have to say it like this, though? The Sexy Seven.
The Sexy Seven. Hashtag Sexy Seven. Actually, I just bought the sexy7.com yesterday, so I can make a landing page.
It's kind of cool.
So for those of you that don't know, if you'll go to Solopreneur Hour, in fact, I'll link to his resources page.
Yeah.
But I believe, isn't that where the Sexy Seven is?
Yeah.
On your resource page. Here are the books. Can I just go through them?
I hope my favorite book is on it.
So what he's got here is Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and also the Cash Flow Quadrant. Then he's got Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week, Michael Gerber's E-Myth Revisited, Strength Finders 2.0, Crush It, Gary Vee's book, and then Zag by Marty Neumeier.
So that they all play a role in the process, because when you're brand new, I feel like Rich Dad, Poor Dad's the perfect place to start. And then that sort of gives you the vocabulary of passive income. And then Cash Flow Quadrant sort of allows you to start speaking a little more fluent in sentences. Efficiency and what's possible happens from the 4-Hour Work Week. The E-Myth Revisited shows you how to structure your business so that you can work on the business and not in the business.
Right.
So very specifically for you, JS, that's a great book. Strengths Finder 2.0 shows you what you should be focusing on and what you should let other people focus on. Crush It tells you how to show up in the world, how to speak in a way that's not salesy, but gets people to move the needle for you. And then Zag helps you define who you are in a very busy marketplace and allows you to differentiate yourself from the rest of the people. And I suggest you read them in that order, so that you have context.
I've actually read several of those books.
Yeah.
My favorite.
But you have to go back and read them again in order.
Okay. My favorite book, and the book that really changed my life, in 1984, I read a book called Influence by Robert Cialdini. And I
The
still think that's
Marketer's
probably
Bible.
the best book I've ever read as far as business is concerned.
Influence.
I had one more question if I can ask.
Sure, go ahead.
Right now, I posted it actually. The Washington Post just came out with an article the other day. Almost half of all Americans say they would be unable to pay an unexpected bill of $400 without either going into debt or having to sell an asset. And this is where we are after 30 years of the gospel of prosperity. I'm seeing a lot of people going out there. They borrow $600 and go on LegalZoom, and the next thing you know, they're a CEO. But they don't know anything about business, about the business world, about sales, about conducting themselves, any of that kind of stuff. I wonder how you could maybe speak to the mentality that thinks either build it and they will come. Because before you were saying, don't let things discourage you and plow ahead and all that kind of stuff. And I definitely believe in that. I can tell you some of the stupid things that I've done in my life to make money. And why not? But I just wonder, is there really a point at which you just want to slap somebody in the head and say, wake up, you're not prepared to do this?
Yeah, it's like 23-year-old life coaches. Right?
Right.
There's a few of them on Blab.
What is up with that?
They're all, that's an epidemic of 23-year-old life coaches. So yes, first of all, I think that if you are going to take this journey, that you need to be good at something. I happen to have 18 years of web and design and branding experience before I started any of this stuff. And I was literally a professional musician for 20 years. So it's not like microphones and gear intimidated me. It was like part of who I was. I think that the process is, like in your case, you do great voiceover work, right? So, and this is just an example of how I would say to structure something so you can scale.
I'm a better writer.
Okay, well, but I'm just going to use voice VO as an example right now. So, and you actually use my buddy Darren Roebuck is a perfect example of this. Bass player guy I knew. He said, I'd like to make a few more bucks. I go, why don't you go on Fiverr and start doing, he's killer voice. Go on Fiverr, start making some voiceover money. And he said, okay. And he took action and he did. So he became what I would call like a consultant for a year and a half, doing a bunch of voiceover stuff, right? Because he's working one-on-one with people. He starts really understanding what the needs of that industry are. Now, if he wanted to, and I'm not saying he has, but if he wanted to, he could turn around and see what he could extract from that experience to make into something he could teach. Either here's how to become a professional voiceover artist. That's the easy one. But you could also teach a course on how to scale your performance related XYZ and teach people that, like how to be busy as a voiceover artist or as a session drummer or as a singer or as a, local artist or whatever. You could take whatever lessons were relevant to those things and turn them into a general teaching course that applies to a broader group. So in your case, you have an exercise I like people to do is very first, list your assets. Get a piece of paper and literally write down everything you know how to do. And it could have nothing to do with VO. You could have raised a good kid, or you could have, you might run the schedule at your work, or you might know how to make a great ham sandwich. Like write everything down.
Or work with a company like Nashua in the division that sold $30,000 a month and build it up to $18 million a month.
He might need two pieces of paper.
Yeah. Right.
But the point is, write it down.
Right. Or something like that. But write all of them down. And this is funny because this works for relationships and it works for business. When you have a bad breakup and you're like, oh, I'll never get that person, I'll never see them again. You write the pros and cons of whatever the relationship was. Then you cross off anything that you could get from any relationship. Right? So you do the same thing with your business. You start crossing off things that, all right, there's a lot of people that have raised kids. I'm going to cross that off. Then blah, blah, blah. What you're left with, the 3 or 4 things that are left are your unique qualifying traits to make something really interesting out of your life or your career or a relationship. Like, oh, he was a skydiver and he, walked on his hands. All right. That's going to be a tough sell to get that again, but maybe you could. So if you do that exercise, then you can sort of take that and kind of look at things that you love And the backfill on that is a lot of us as adults have gotten away from the things that made us really, really happy when we were younger. I'd say that Joel and I, and we have a lot in common in the way that we still like to do the fun stuff that we've done like a lot of our lives, you know? Joel's like a gamer. I still ride my BMX bike sometimes. I love playing with my car and doing I don't compromise on that just because I'm an adult now. I do the things that I love. So
there's a big difference between being an adult and being a grown up. We can be adults, but we don't have to have this mythological grown up thing. I don't understand that.
Well, so a buddy of mine, a speaker actually lives in Denver, he'll be speaking in front of 500 people, and he'll say, "Hey, who can sing me a song?" And like 6 people will raise their hand. And then he'll say, "Who can draw me a picture?" And like 10 people will raise their hand. And then he stops for a minute and he says, "If I'd asked those same 2 questions to a room of 500 5-year-olds, every hand would have gone up for both."
Right.
So where's the disconnect? Where do we get away from the things that we used to love? And I gotta be older and responsible now. I can't take a ballet class, or I can't, do whatever. So I don't believe in any. I think it's horse S.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. What I've done is I have done an asset sheet there. And what I actually did was go through to find 2 common denominators. One, stuff that I really enjoy doing, and then things that I thought were unique from a standpoint of how many people could really bring this to a table, how many people out there. And that's weird. My background is doing that.
It's crazy. We're like in a different time where by the way, I realized that I wanted to finish my point. I was finding my way back to it, which was that you need to be a consultant for a while and work with people enough that you understand what the needs of the many are. You work with the needs of the few so you can figure out what the needs of the many are, right? So if you are here's what I did when I was stone broke is I would go online and say, "Hey, for $30, I'll give you," or I think it was $47, I'll give you a 30-minute social media assessment. Wow. And I'll show you how you can optimize your social media. Once you do that for 50 people, you got a pretty good idea of what the overall problems are. So what I suggested, I have a coaching group called the Solo Lab. Can I plug that? Is okay, Joel?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I want sololab.com is where you can find out about it. But my suggestion is when you're first starting something that's kind of service-based, or you need to work one-on-one with something, do whatever they did before the internet was invented. That means you're going to networking events and you're talking to people and you're shaking hands so don't be like, "Oh, I got to work on my list and make a bunch of content videos." Do none of that. I want to see you. If you have more money than time, if you have more time than money, you need to be getting out one-on-one and shaking hands and talking to people. If you have more money than time, then it's time to scale.
Okay.
Hey, thanks for popping in, JS.
Appreciate it a lot. I'll stay in the chat room.
Talented guy right there. Let's answer Dr. Tom's question. How do you distinguish between being a solopreneur in your business and you're drawing on support, encouragement, and accountability in achieving your business goals through relationships with others?
It's funny. The tagline for my show is job security for the unemployable. The almost tagline for my show, which sort of became the tagline for Solo Lab, is working alone together. So there is I think you can be kindred spirits with people that are trying to accomplish the same thing. What I love about solopreneurs is that it can be an actor or a comedian or an online business person or a real estate agent or an athlete. They all have very similar methodologies of having to market themselves, connect with an audience, and sell whatever their thing is, whether it's comedy or an online product or your speaker. It's all a very similar pathway that they have to take. So I'm not, I don't want to read your question wrong, but I'm not sure if you're asking if that in some way diminishes you because you're surrounding yourself with successful people or with a group that's doing similar things. But that's specifically why I created Solo Lab, so that solopreneurs had a place to kind of like, to bounce ideas off people where they wouldn't, they'd normally be in like an office environment. Did I answer that, Joel, or am I wrong?
Tom, is that what you're? Yeah, Tom, come on in here and let's discuss. That's what Blab is all about. The seats are open, and would love to welcome you here to the show. Dr. Tom, say hello to Michael O'Neill.
Hey, Mike,
Hi,
how
Doc.
are you?
What kind of doctor are you?
A theologian.
Oh, wow. I play racquetball, and in fact, I'm doing that in 55 minutes with a pastor here in San Diego, and I have to really watch my four-letter words when I miss a shot in that.
You can say the words holy and
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
And, right.
And that,
life.
right, exactly. Good. Goodness.
Good.
Goodness.
Life. Holy.
Yes. Yay. Anyway.
So what? Go ahead
How
and
can I help?
clarify, Tom.
Yeah. So, Michael, the question is really related to the idea that solopreneurs, like it takes a lot of self-confidence. It takes a lot of sort of visionary willingness to face the winds of trying to grow something. And I think one of the things that can happen for folks like us is that we get drunk on our own vision. And we think the path is going to be easy and it's going to happen quickly and it's guaranteed and it's not going to fail. So I'm looking at the essential role that folks who accompany you to say, you're drinking your own Kool-Aid. You need, look, let me help you be accountable to set some goals.
Sure.
Or those types of things.
Yeah. So that is very specifically I mean, it's one of the first things you should do is get into some sort of community. You have to, like, you can do your best. I've gotten to some extent I saw this coming. I didn't know what I was going to do yet. I just knew I was going to do something, and I knew that to do something, I needed to build a nice network around me. So I did start reaching out before I launched my show. So by the time my show came along, I had like a pretty good guest list for the first 8 weeks. It was pretty good, right? Not everybody has that. So you have to, again, one of the first things you can do is go and seek community in this, whether it's, in my coaching group. Chris Ducker has one. John Lee Dumas has one for podcasting. But it's one of the first things you need to do. And you have to your first point, you have to assume failure. Failure is the default. And failure, if you reframe it as a lesson, is the default. And
we're used to it, right?
I mean, not only used to it, but you expect it and it's fine. It's like, all right,
that's how you get to success. Got to fail.
Right. You sort of count those fails because you're progressing a little bit, but and it's so cliche and goody. But it's I was like channeling my inner Gary Vee there for a second. You have to assume that bad things are going to happen, and you have to go back to what we said at the beginning, which is, of course they're going to happen, and yeah, that's just part of how this is. Like, fine. It's what it is. If you don't have that, you're not wired that way, and everything's like, well, this is like, it's everything's a crisis.
This is hard.
Not even that it's hard, Joel. It's that when one thing happens, it's the end of the world. It's like, oh my God, I don't know how am I going to do this? My mailing list crashed. Well, then you have a backup, or maybe you don't. Then you start over again, and and I mean, it's just what it is. You can't freak about stuff. And I do find people it's like having an ER doctor that's, oh my God, I've never seen this before. You're like, I want the guy that goes, oh man, another, stake through the guy's shoulder. Let me get my tools out, and we'll, it is how it is. We're going to fix it. So,
that's one of the rules that we use in when we're putting on live events using our technology is we expect that the technology is going to fail until we prove that it's not going to. So we go in with that idea that says it doesn't work until you prove it does. And then once you've proven it does, what's your backup? So you need to have some backup or redundancy set up for every part that's essential to the success of the event. So that if you go in with that idea, look, this is going to fail. Okay, now we've proven it doesn't. That's one of the things that I really love to have people accompanying me on a team. But a second is this. I've found, so I do a lot of coaching to folks, and they'll come to me and ask advice about, I want to grow my practice. And you guys were talking a bit about the concept of achieving a kind of mastery of your craft before you would step into that role of saying, I have something that's actually valuable that people would want to pay for it. So,
I think it's out of integrity not to.
You have to earn the right to do it. And nothing frustrates me more than people who will read one of my books, and then they're the expert and feel qualified to go teach somebody else.
I read
the
3.5
right
chapters of Twitter Power. Now I've got my Twitter webinars and I'm driving traffic to it. And I need it. I know people that have just started a podcast, have no following at all. And now they've got, I got to start my membership site. I'm like, for who? Who? After 4 days, whose membership? Why are they joining? Anyway, it drives me nuts. Anyway.
Well, Tom, thanks for hopping on. Appreciate seeing you. Always a pleasure to speak with you.
Thanks,
Doc.
Good meeting you.
I want to respect your time, Michael, and I know you play racquetball a little bit. So one more subject that I want to discuss before I let you go, because you brought it up in the chat room, and that is Snapchat. That's right. We did. You and I got together in the hallway at the party at the hotel during traffic and conversion and gave you a little Snapchat walkthrough.
You have been my Snap Miyagi.
Snap on, snap off, paint fence. There you are. So you've been at it now for a few weeks, right?
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts? How has it changed from initially when you started? There was a perception, there was a learning curve versus where you are now a few weeks later.
Yeah. So I'll answer that while I'm snapping the answer to the question. I'm double snapping right now. I'm on a Blab Joel Comm right now. I'll show you guys
right now. Snapping.
Right now, when you said this to me, not even about the engagement. The engagement was cool because I've got now I'm getting about 80 or 90 views to my snaps. Remember, just a couple we talked about a few days ago was 70. So it's moving up and moving up and moving up. I can't. I'll celebrate when it's 3 figures. There's no better platform right now to give true know, like, and trust insight more than Snapchat. You can create a video on YouTube, right? And you can do that, but it sort of forces people to take a lot of action to be able to consume it. You can Periscope, which is certainly cool, but there's something about seeing the narrative of a day in their life that really, really gives them context on, is this guy full of it or is he really doing what he says he is? Does he have these lessons? Is he, depending on what you're looking for, in my case, is it hopefully entertaining? Do I say a few things that are fun and funny? And then also, can you get some value out of it? I hope that people that view my snaps will get some of that. I actually took a bit of your inspiration today and I got a new package from Amazon and I led them through the opening of the package. What do you think it is? And I kind of opened it up and I said, is it this? And sort of pulled the Joel Comm narrative through the whole thing. And it was fun. It's a fun thing to do.
It's storytelling. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but my use has evolved. I was doing more of the little bits of my day. And now I find that my stories, and I segment my stories by the day, are more thematic. In other words, it's what am I going to do today? What is the story I want to tell today? And I find myself telling those stories and occasionally interspersing pieces of my day in the story. For example, those who see my snaps today, I talk about the little icons that appear next to your friends and what they mean. So it's more of an educational tutorial, but it's also fun. So I don't know if you've seen that yet, but it's fun. Yesterday, I was overwhelmed with all of the interviews I've been doing. I'm getting ready. I like when I'm interviewing people, but all the podcasts I'm being asked to interview, and I'm going to say no for a little bit. And I was so tired of talking that my whole story the whole day was me. I had written out on note cards.
It was cool. It was the NXS video.
Yeah.
Without the music.
Yeah, without the music. And that was it. I didn't say a word all day long. I let the words on the cards do the talking. So there was a theme to it. And I never know what I'm going to do until that next morning. And then the inspiration hits me and I'm like, this is what I'm going to do today.
Your hide and seek was awesome, by the way.
The hide and seek.
Hide and seek was killer. How long did it take you to actually do that? Because that seemed very in-depth.
I want to say 30 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. Did you save that? You save all your videos every day?
I save the last thing I do before I go to bed every night is to save my video, and I've got them all on an iCloud. And sometimes I feel like, I want to share that because I put so much into it. And what I'm doing is twice a month I'm uploading a video to Facebook and saying, here's what you're missing if you're not following me on Snapchat. Some other people, they're putting them all on YouTube every day and repurposing them. And I'm thinking, but if I do that, why should you follow me on Snapchat? Just go to you and you consume it differently too. When you do it on Snapchat, it's not the same as going to YouTube and watching it.
It's very different. Yeah. And it's funny. This guy that I play racquetball with, he's a pastor. So he has this, obviously every Sunday people are expecting. I said, dude, you definitely need to be on Snapchat. And what I told him to do is to do a whole day of, snapping and like maybe inspirational prayers or whatever he does throughout the course of the day, save the video. And then when he goes to church that weekend, play the video for his congregation, say, this is what you can get if you follow me on Snapchat. And he'll get like instant followers. And I think that's so cool. I think that's such a neat idea. Do you, I always wanted to ask you about this. There's certain parts of my day that I would like to keep. Would you suggest just snapping, like maybe just your hide and seek? And then that's the thing you share.
Well, right? Yeah. So I've done that before. Like on Groundhog Day, I did a few things that morning, and then I got the inspiration.
That was, again, awesome.
And so I took it into iMovie. I chopped off all the stuff before the story and after, and then uploaded that on its own. So you can repurpose your videos once you've got them. And I'm a big fan of the native portrait video too. Some people, are doing them landscape, and it makes me like, wait, what do I do with my phone?
For me, it's easier to shoot a landscape, but I don't do any landscape. Because then I got to hold the phone with this way instead of this way. This way is easier for me to hold and shoot, but this way, because it's harder to shoot like this. You got to sort of hold it with your pinky. If there's only some way that you could like remote control your phone and do some cool stuff like that, it'd be really neat.
That would be really neat.
I wish something like that existed at joelcomm.com.
That's right. Well, not yet. Hopefully soon. Well, hey, Michael, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for joining me today. And if people want to, people should go listen to the Solopreneur Hour. It's on iTunes, and check out the Heinz Ward Show as well. So solopreneurhour.com and on Snapchat as Solo Hour. And what else would you like to share as your parting words till we meet again?
I want to try an experiment.
Okay.
I want to try an experiment. I want to follow up with this right now.
Are we doing a story right now?
No, but I want to see if this will do anything. So the one time I tried it, it was crazy what happened.
Are you trying to do the swap faces thing?
No.
There's a great filter. Have you seen that filter on Snapchat?
Of course.
The swap faces one is amazing.
It's really cool. Here's what I want you guys to do. If you would, and you don't have to stick with this forever. You don't have to keep subscribed. You have an iOS device of some sort. I'm going to go to your podcasts app. Okay. It's purple. And I want you to go to the search function. It's all the way on the right hand side.
Subscribe right now.
But I want to try something else. Just type in the word solo, 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 right? Just like that. And then my show is going to be the first one that pops up.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So click that. I want everybody to click subscribe at the same time. I want to see, based on that, and I'm going to look right now where I am. I think I'm like number 22 or something in my little category.
I'm already subscribed, so I'm going to unsubscribe and resubscribe so that you can track it.
I don't know if that will do anything, but I do appreciate you being subscribed. But if you guys all do that right now, I am number. Let's look. I think I'm like number 22 or something in my category.
Let's manipulate the charts.
34. I'm number 34 right now. And I want to see if everybody does this. Last time I did something like this, I went up to number 77 overall on iTunes in all of the hundreds of thousands of shows. It was like, wow. So I want to see if that happens again. And if you guys want to unsubscribe, that's fine. But listen to last Friday's episode.
What number?
It is episode What is today?
Listen to episode 386 with Joel Comm on Snapchat Mastery.
Yes, that's actually a great one to check out. Last Friday's episode, that thing I mentioned about doing the pros and cons of the business you like and that kind of thing, I went through a full, like, how to start your business and how to really do it. It is 388. Listen to episode 388.
How to find or relocate your passion.
Yeah, 386. So 388, 386.
Okay. And by the way, your show has 436 reviews. You have 5 stars. It's podcast. For those that don't know, go to your podcast app for iTunes and look up Solo. Should bring up Solopreneur Hour podcast with Michael O'Neill.
That's right.
Michael, you, my friend, rock my world. What? How can people get that T-shirt?
They can't. That's what it's very limited edition. Although, should I make them? Should I make some shirts for people to buy?
Totally. Is that even a question?
All right.
How many? Let's show of hands here. Who would want one of those? There's 3 shirts. There's the Proudly Unemployable.
That's right.
There's the yellow one behind that says, move your head, I am unemployable. And then there's I think we're Facebook friends, which, by the way, that's the one you were wearing when we met. And yeah, you can wear them to social media marketing world. So yeah, we definitely got some people here, and you can always just do a Teespring campaign, so you don't have to make them yourself.
I've done them. I've done those myself. Yeah. I will say I have done girl shirts. I love girl shirts. I would love to see you in those. And I have
love girls in shirts,
like double XL or XL ones. If someone wants one, send me a self-addressed stamped package. Yeah, maybe I will. Maybe I'll make a few.
Awesome. Hey, okay. Michael O'Neill, Solopreneur Hour, and this has been the Joel Comm Show. Thanks for joining today. Replays available on youtube.com/Joel Comm, on my blog at joelcomm.com, at all places. I am at Joel Comm. I appreciate everybody here that joined us today. 634 people came through to imbibe in time with myself and Michael O'Neill. So, Mike, thanks, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. Go play racquetball.
Thank you.
And the rest of you, go do good stuff. See you next time.